What's up, Dragon Ballers? Today we got a brand new deck to talk about. I've played more than a handful of games with this deck over the last couple days, and I honestly think it could be a competitive contender going forward. The leader in question, if you clicked on this link, you already know, CUMBER Maddening Force. This is our first CUMBER leader in the game. If you watch Dragon Ball Heroes, you mess with Heroes, I'm sure you're super excited for this. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the leader and the deck. I'm going to explain a lot of these cards because, like I said, this is a brand new deck. I was able to build this deck through pre-release boxes, so not many people have their hands on this yet. And I'm excited for when people do, because I can't wait to theory craft with y'all. So let's get into it. Evil Saiyan on the front side. When this card's placed in your leader area, activate up to one prison planet from your deck. So let me pull out the prison planet because that is integral to the deck's play. We'll talk about prison planet. Actually, let's talk about it right away. So this is a 7-drop barrier field. Permanent mono black Saiyan cards with combo cost of 1 and 5,000 combo power in your hand and your battle area have their combo costs reduced by 1. So we do run 1 plus 5Ks. They allow us to give our opponent cards, and they can't combo them off the board easily without paying energy. We also have another permanent on this. When using your Foo's Overlord to choose a servant card, you can also choose cards in your opponent's battle area. So there was confusion around this because of the way Overlord was originally worded. You are able to choose one of your opponent's battle cards with servant, put it at the bottom of their deck, and you draw the card. So very good update to the ruling. But yeah, anyways. When this card attacks, draw a card. Pretty standard. Awaken is when your life's at 4 or less, and this is always how we awaken. I've never done the 4 or less, except draft, but that doesn't count. When your life's at 4 or less, or when you have 2 or more energy while you have a Fu Z battle card in play, draw a card, untap an energy, and add cards from your life to your hand until you have 6 life left. So, rip to 6. Untap 1, draw 1. Pretty standard. On this side, auto once per turn. When this card attacks, draw a card. Activate main once per turn. Choose up to 1 card you own in your opponent's battle area, and it gains servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. So, it has to be a battle card that you own on this side. Not much more to say about that because we want to kind of be turboing into our Z leader, which is when your life's at 3 or less, you can tap a black energy and Z Awaken on top of a black Cumber for 2 Z energy. When this card attacks, you draw a card and choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gains servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is where the deck really shines, is once the Z leader is established, you're able to lock your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and then remove them on your terms at will. It's super cool. He also has an activate battle once per turn. If this card is in a battle, choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards with servant and use them in a combo in your combo area. So if they have like a 1 plus 10k in that we've given servant to, this 20k base leader is now at 30k. They have another one that's 35 or 40 potentially. Really, really powerful defensive black leader. Not something I think we've seen ever, if I'm not mistaken. I've played this game since the start, and I don't remember a defensive black leader. Black's always been the color that's been overrealm oriented and like cheat stuff out cheats out high energy stuff. So like it's been more aggressive oriented. I guess you could argue that like Shenron Gogeta from what was it, like set 7? I guess that was kind of controlled, but like I don't count a Wish deck as a regular black deck. That's its own thing. Anyways, before I go off on too big of a tangent, let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about the rest of the Z deck. First, and the way we're awakening is the Fu Z card. This guy has Deflect and Barrier. So, similar to the Gohan SH, the Blue Goku for that, it's always going to come into play. It's always going to stick. Like, nothing really answers Deflect Barriers. 1 and 1 Z energy. So, it's really easy to get him into play. I usually just defend the first swing from my opponent and go ahead and play him. Overlord, limit 1. If your leader is an Evil Saiyan or Cumber card, both black. Z-Stack, black Cumber battle card with an energy cost of 2. So let's talk about that. Because the Z-Stack 1 actually comes after the Overlord 1 limit 1 : so that means when you Overlord, you're going to Z-Stack a Cumber. And Z-Stack, for those of you that aren't familiar with the mechanic, when putting this card into play on top of your leader from your Z deck, place up to 1 of the specified cards from your Z deck under this card. So Z-Stack generally is just occurs when the card comes into play, but this kind of breaks those rules because it activates when you Overlord, which is really interesting. And the reason for that, I don't know if I can get this to focus, but after the... No, this isn't going to focus. But the reason for that is after the Overlord limit 1, there is a : before the Z-Stack. So I'm sure that'll be a hot button issue while people figure that out. I did want to clarify that because that did come up when we were testing this deck. So yeah, we play the Fu. The Fu has an activate main, tap a black energy, play up to 1 black Cumber card with an energy cost of 2 from under this card. So we play him, and then the same turn we're able to play him. This guy's really, really good. For 1 energy, this guy's really, really good. When this card's played or attacks, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost of 4 or less. It gains Servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. So, say you're going second, and your opponent played a couple things and swung at you with them. You don't have to worry about removing them, because when this is played, it's going to give one of them Servant. And then when it swings, it's going to give another one Servant. So you control their board without removing it, which is really cool to begin with. And then you're able to use those servants later on, as long as you keep giving them Servant, because usually it's just till the end of your opponent's next turn that you're giving Servant. But even like immediately, you're able to use it for Overlords and stuff. So we are actually playing 3 of the Cumber, because if your food does stick, there is a chance that you're just going to play this guy every turn, especially if you don't see another card that we'll look at later. And then we do play 1 Surmounting the Impossible Vegeta. Like I said, we want to turbo run our Z Awaken. Because of that, being able to get to from 4 to 3 at will is really important, and that's where Vegeta shines. It does hurt that we're paying an extra energy, an extra Z energy to get to our Z Awaken, but in the matchups where we have to play this, we can usually afford to do that. Alright, so that's our Z deck. I'll try to keep the deck laid out so you guys can get a nice screenshot at the end. And we are going into a format where Z-Deck space is at a premium because of the Z-Stack mechanic. If you're playing any of the new archetypes, your Z-Deck is going to be less utility oriented and going to be more part of your deck's combo, kind of like what your deck's trying to do. So I'm looking forward to see how that pans out. Alright, so our first battle card in the main deck is Evil Saiyan, Thirsting for Battle. This is basic, just auto. When it's played, search top 5. You grab a Fu, a Saiyan, or our Unison. So automatic 4 of. I usually, if I'm on the play, I'm gonna or if I'm on the draw rather, I'm gonna charge, play him, search, swing with leader, combo him off immediately so they can't remove him or something. So I guarantee that I have the Z energy for Fu without losing a card from hand. Next up, and this is where things start to get very interesting. My Ace in the Hole. So my is a 1-drop auto. When this card's played, add up to 1 Super Saiyan Blue Vegito Supreme Gleaming. What are these names, man? Supreme Gleaming from your deck to your hand and shuffle your deck. So that's what happens when we play her on our side of the field. She will search this 5-drop Vegito, which we're going to talk about later. But when we use her activate main, if your leader is an Evil Saiyan or Cumber card, both black, draw a card and play this card from your hand in your opponent's battle area. So what this allows us to do is establish a body in our opponent's battle area while replacing the card in our hand that we can then give Servant to and Overlord. You'll notice that that is essentially what the deck wants to do all the time. It is a black control deck. There are aggressive elements to it. There's a lot of pressure that you're going to put out because of some of the cards in here. But for the most part, it is a slower version of playing the color, which I'm very excited about, to be honest. So yeah, there's not much more to be said about that. It just plays in your opponent's battle area, draws you a card, and sets up all your other stuff. Alright, so Trunks, Prisoner from the Future. This is our first 1 plus 5k we're going to see. So the Mai, they're actually able to combo off. The Trunks and the next card we're going to see, they're not able to combo off without paying an energy. Trunks says when this card is played, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. So that kind of sucks. We're allowing our opponent to filter. Not the greatest. But it is a free play in our opponent's battle area. Activate main limit 1 if your leader is an Evil Saiyan or Cumber. Both black. Play this card from your hand in your opponent's battle area. Look at up to 5 cards from the top of your deck. Add up to 1 My Future or Saiyan card, black, with an energy cost of 6 or less. And then shuffle. So this is a free searcher for the deck that also establishes a body on our opponent's side of the field for our Overlord Servant shenanigans. He's only a 10k, so like we're awakening turn 2. If they really want to swing with him and put some cards on him, they're losing cards out of hand. We're not really going neg to defend, so it's fine. Next up, Vegeta against all odds. One of the best cards in the deck by far. Blocker. It's a blocker. Counter attack, limit 1, negate the attack, play this card in your opponent's battle area. But hey, wait. We're giving them a blocker? That's pretty bad, right? Nah, we give that shit Servant and then we bottom deck it with Overlord. And the best part about this, like, it's a 3 cost, right? No. If your leader card's a black Cumber card, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand without paying its energy cost. So it's a limit 1 to negate. We can't just spam these. But it's a really consistent way to be able to defend the most lethal swing your opponent is sending your way without having to dedicate energy to doing so. Which, like, they've printed negates that are free, limit 1 negates for Sin Shenron and Android 13 that are free when you have a Z leader. That's cool and all. This is free the moment you're awakened. Card's pretty snapped. I have some extra cards. I'll push those to the back. Let's keep talking about the battle card lineup. What do we want to talk about next? Let's talk about this Goku. So this is another card that plays in our opponent's battle area. This is Super Saiyan Son Goku Berserk Instincts. And it says Super Saiyan. I'm guessing it's Super Saiyan 2 because his hair kind of looked like Super Saiyan 2, but I could be wrong. Don't hold me on that. He's a 3-cost 10k double striker. While your leader is black, this card gets +5 and Servant. So it's a 25k double striker when we play it on our side of the field. Auto, limit 1. If a player's leader is black, When this card is used in a combo, choose up to one of your cards. It gets 10,000 power for the battle, and play this card from your combo area in your opponent's battle area. So it's a 0.5k that your opponent can combo off and give back to you. But do they want to give you a 25k double striker? So usually we want to make sure that if we're putting this in our opponent's battle area, we're able to overlord it or get it back somehow. And we do have ways of doing that I will show you very soon. So the reason I wanted to show you this Goku next is I wanted to talk about the Vegito that goes with the Mai. So Mai straight up just looks through your deck and adds this card to your hand. That's why we're only running 2. It's also very, very situational. It's a barrier blocker, Union Patara, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, send it to its owner's warp, and draw a card, and then you use a Goku and Vegeta to go into him. And it's Patara, so they have to be on board. It's not Union Fusion from him. Permanent. If this card is played... Permanent. This card is played from your hand in your opponent's battle area. And when choosing cards for the to use with this card's Union skill from your hand, you can use battle cards you own in your opponent's battle area. So this is the first way we're able to remove these from our opponent's battle area. Like, obviously we have Servant, Overlord stuff, but if we've given our opponent 2 of these, we can say, okay, Union Fusion into that. Now you have a barrier blocker. Seems bad, right? It seems really bad. Until you actually do it and you realize what the auto says. So, yeah, we're giving him a barrier blocker 25k. That sucks. But, auto, if your life is at 4 or more, and your opponent's leader is a black Cumber card, so this is going to resolve for your opponent, obviously. When this card's played for the turn, if your opponent's Evil Saiyan or Cumber card, both black and with an energy cost of 8, is attacking and in a battle, you can't activate counter skills. So any 8-drop Cumber that attacks while this is out cannot be countered. Or not, sorry. Not while he's out. The turn he's played. So it's absolutely nuts. Like, if you can pull that off with the 8-drop boss monster, like, that's absolutely nuts. It is super situational though, and I found myself winning most games without needing to use it. So it's not something you have to play for every game. It's not something you have to set up every game. The next card is a 100% 4 of, but this is a card I unfortunately could not get a 4th copy of for this video. I would probably... what would I cut? I'll figure something out at the end. Or I would go to 51 cards, because we're at 50 cards with the planet. So 51 with the 4th Cumber I think would be okay. Anyways, let me talk about what this guy does. He's a dual attack 19k that says when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and it gains Servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. And if you're unaware, Servant says this card cannot be untapped during your charge phase. So this is a dual attacker. If this has Servant, it's still able to restand. Fun fact. I know some people misunderstand how Servant works because it never really became relevant at any point. I think this deck will change that. Okay, so let's get into some of our other overlords, because we're not always going to be able to sit on this Fu. A lot of decks do have answers to barrier, especially low-cost barrier cards. So don't expect that guy to stick around too long. And actually, do I want to talk about him first? No, let's talk about our Unison first. And then we'll talk about our overlords. So this Unison actually says reduce its cost by 1 specified black if you have an Evil Saiyan or Cumber leader. So we can play this on turn 2. Usually what I end up doing on turn 2 is I tap out. You have 3 energy effectively. You're spending 1 energy on Fu. You're spending 1 energy on the Unison, and then you're spending 1 energy on either the 6-drop or the Cumber from under your Boo, depending on how many battle cards they have out and how much pressure you're trying to apply. Because the 2-drop that you play from under your Foo actually will give 2 of their cards Servant, where this is only going to give 1. This hits 4 or less, this can hit anything. So they both have their utility, they're both really good cards. Anyways, let's talk about our Unison, what it actually does. So we're able to play it for 1. It's a 15k that has a +2 activate main. Limit 1, choose up to 1 of your Evil Saiyan or Cumber cards, both black and with an energy cost of 6 or less, and it gains Servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. So what we do, and why I mentioned the Servant dual attack ruling earlier, is we actually give our dual attacker Servant, and he becomes a 29k dual attacker. There is a -7 where you pay a black energy, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with Servant, switch it to active mode, and gain control of it. I don't ever see that coming up realistically, and players that play against the control matchup aren't going to be super eager to give you cards out of your life, because we run a lot of defensive tools. We're able to stay alive at will. So they're going to attack your Unison a lot is what I'm getting at. And it's fine, but that means we're not usually going to see that -7 come up. Okay, next up, let's talk about Foo Scheming Overlord. So turn 2, your opponent played a Black Smoke Dragon and dealt with your Foo Overlord. Now you're without an Overlord. How do we effectively reestablish going into turn 3? This is our answer. This card is a critical Overlord once per turn. When this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's non-black battle cards with energy cost of 3 or less and gain control of it. So we're stealing battle cards now. You can play him for 2. Activate main if your leader card's a black Cumber card and your opponent has 2 or more energy and a battle card in play. Play this card from your hand. So this is one way we reestablish Overlord. The other way we do is the new Foo TP, which is Observing Overlord. It plays for 1. It's another Overlord once per turn. Activate main, limit 1, pay a black energy. If your leader is a black Cumber card, your opponent has 2 or more energy and 2 or more and 2 or more battle cards in play. Draw 1 card and play this card from your hand. So you're going to draw 1, play this guy for 1, and then Overlord draw another. So he's effectively a tap 1, draw 2, 15k. When I get more of this, I'll probably flip the ratios and go 3 Observing Overlord and 2 Scheming Overlord, because it's an energy cheaper and it draws 2 cards. It's really good. The super combo we run is the Cumber, because not only because it's super searchable, because the Vegeta super combo would also be searchable, but as soon as our Foo battle card's in play, this super combo is live. So we're not taking crits early game. We're not worried about that. We can use these whenever we want to. By the time our Z battle card dies, we'll probably have either Z energy to put it live or the Z leader in play. Because I've noticed, like, people will put me at from 6 to 5, no problem. And then we do play token negates to go from 5 to 4. And then we have surmounting to go from 4 to 3. So it's really easy to get to that Z awaken. It costs a little bit of energy, sure, but we get there pretty effectively. Alright, so let's talk about our boss monster. Berserker Barrage, Super Saiyan 3 Cumber. Look, actually, it's not even Super Saiyan 3, that's regular Super Saiyan. This man just has a whole bunch of hair. So he says, if your leader card's a black Saiyan card, when this card's played, draw a card, choose any number of your opponent's battle cards. Those cards gain Servant until the end of your opponent's next turn. So you're already seeing, like, as much pressure as this deck can generate, we have so many control aspects to the deck. We just, like, this locks say you're playing against Red Pan and they got like 6 battle cards in play. You play this, you give all of their battle card servant. It's so good. And then you choose one after doing that. You either give this double strike dual attack, or you give it triple strike. I think the only time I would ever give this triple strike is if we gave them the barrier blocker and then played Cumber SCR. But spoiler alert, we're not playing Cumber SCR. But I think that's why the triple strike potential is there. Because the combo on turn 4 would be give your opponent Vegito, play Cumber, use the Cumber SCR to burn a life, and then I guess they would still have a barrier blocker. I don't know. I'm not claiming to be the best with this deck. I've played it for like 2 days. But I think there could be something there. Another suggestion a friend had for me was you could tap 2 for this guy on turn 4 and then tap another 2 to black smoke the barrier blocker away. So now they can't counter and they don't have the barrier blocker, and there could be some merit to that. I might try that out. But I think this alone generates a lot of pressure, even without the Vegito line. So I've actually considered cutting this completely. If the Mai didn't search this, I would probably try a build without this. Maybe I'm sleeping on it though. Maybe I'm underestimating this guy not being counterable, which actually sounds really good the more I talk about it. Anyways, let's talk about our secret rare, Pan Time Patrol Maiden. So if I had my way, I'd be playing Golden Cooler in this deck. But in my testing, the deck kind of wins the game on 4 or loses. But getting to turn 5, if I get to turn 5 with this deck, the likelihood of my opponent having a big enough hand where Golden Cooler Secret Rare makes an impact is very low. So that being said, I also realized that a weakness of the deck is that I do want to use all my energy. I'm a very energy hungry deck, and even though I run 3 of the token negate, I want some more free defense. So the obvious solution, especially since we're locking battle cards and keeping a bunch of battle cards in play a lot of the time, is Pan Time Patrol Maiden. If you don't know what she does, if you have 3 or more energy, play this card. Your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn. You can't activate counter skills on copies of this card for the game, which doesn't matter because of the ultimate ruling, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, for each battle card in play, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. So 4 battle cards on either side of the board. This is a free, not negate, free counter attack. So 1 attack will be going through. That's totally fine. We can manage 1 attack. You can also activate main, tap 1, remove this card from the game, and take control of one of your opponent's battle cards. That's a fun little thing we can do too, because theoretically we can just like get our Goku back and have a 25k double striker. So this may not end up being the best secret rare for the deck. But from my initial testing and what I understand of the deck thus far, it seems like it's a much better option than Golden Cooler. I will probably, just because I have to, I will test the Cumber SCR in here as well. The thing is, that plays from hand or warp. So like, if we draw into it, we draw into it. Same with one of these SCRs. But it's not like we're milling at all in this deck. We're not overwhelming a whole bunch. I don't even run a main deck overwhelm at the moment, which might change in the future. Again, this is the very preliminary build, but it can win games. It's won games against some pretty good decks. All right, let me stop rambling. Continue talking about. Oh, I didn't talk about how we play this guy, right? Activate main, limit 1. You pay 2 energy. If you have 4 or more energy and your opponent has 2 or more battle cards in play, play this card from your hand. So keeping those battle cards locked down with Servant is relevant because we need 2 of them in play in order to play our Cumber boss card. All right, so we play 3 supporting the Dark Empire, as I've mentioned a few times. Oh, and I'm hiding these cards behind my camera. I apologize. So yeah, 3 support in the Dark Empire. It's token negate. I'm not gonna talk much about that. It does help a lot to help us get from either 5 to 4 or 4 to 3. I use it a lot to go from 4 to 3 because like people don't usually think a lot of putting you from 5 to 4, unless they have like a double striker, of course, to try to put you 5 to 3. But after that, they might swing on my unison or something, and I've actually token negated unison swings just to make sure I'm at 3 life and can look to Z Awaken sooner. We do mainboard 2 petrification. This card is too snapped not to. Like realistically, this card could be a 3 or 4 of, and it would still be pretty. It would still feel fine. Like there's so many dual attackers. There's so many cards with autos on attack that concern us as players. Petrification answers so many things. And then the last 2 cards are Explosion of Malice. This is the new counterattack that came out with the deck. If your leader card's a combo card, negate the attack, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and gain Servant until the end of your next turn. This hits any battle card, and you can use it at counterattack timing. So, it's really good at just like proactively, before you even start your turn, you're giving something Servant. I didn't really talk about what Petrification does. Petrification will negate the attack, and if you discard a card, you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier. It can't attack, be placed in your opponent's combo area, or activate skills until the end of your next turn. And because this happens at counter timing, this turns off pending autos. Because the auto is unable to activate in the first place. So yeah, this is my 50 cards for Cumber that I'm running. I'd love some input if anybody else already has this built. If anybody else has been testing online with Untap or whatever, like I want this deck to be a contender. I want this deck to go hard and be the kind of force that like Red SS4 was. So if we can like get our heads together and make this shit pop off, that would make me a happy man. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. My name is Nasif. I will try to post Dragon Ball content a couple times a week. Consistency has been my biggest struggle, but we're gonna get over that. Yeah, thank y'all for tuning in. Catch y'all next time. Peace.